Hi, guys. You will remember that last year I did a prediction for Spain. Now, as you know, Spain have been having a really tumultuous time politically. They had about 4 general elections in 4 years to try and get a stable government. But every time they have an election, things get more unstable. And in the past election, the Vox, kind of what they call the far right party, sort of stormed up in the polls, going from virtually no seats to 60 seats, or just over 60. The centre-right coalition PP the centre-right party PP kind of restored some respectfulness because they'd done really badly in the previous election. But PSOE and Podemos, they didn't have enough seats to form a government. So what has happened? Well, Spain have finally formed a government, and I'm going to talk about it because it goes along the lines of what I was saying, that I think the economic meltdown that's going to happen in Europe is going to start in Spain with a banking crisis in Spain. And this sort of quite far left coalition could be what sets the stage for Spain having an economic meltdown, leading to this big economic crisis that we've all been kind of expecting in the Eurozone and more widely globally. So, excuse me for reading here, but so Spain, as I say, it's finally got a government. So on January the 13th, Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and his cabinet were sworn in officially, and it's the country's first coalition government in 40 years as a democracy. Thank you, Rebel News. Okay, so as you know, back in November, Spain held its 4th election in 4 years, and the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party, that's PSOE, was the largest party, but it didn't have enough to form a government. And after weeks of talks, they formed a government with Podemos, minority coalition government, and it's a very unstable arrangement at the moment. So Podemos is a hard left, almost communist party, and Pedro Sanchez, who's the leader of PSOE, the kind of centre-left party, he once said that he wouldn't be able to sleep at night if he ever had to do a deal with Podemos. But now he's basically done it. So the Catalan party and the Basque separatist parties, they kind of stood aside and they didn't vote to let this go through. So they are kind of silent partners in this, if you could say that, or they're certainly not going to stand in the way of it. So we now have the radical left at the helm of a major European government, and they are pushing a lot of rather dangerous policies. Let's have a look at them. The first thing they're going for is rent controls. It's trying to address the housing shortage. But a Swedish professor of economics, Assa Lindbeck, was known to say, he said, in many cases, rent control appears to be the most efficient technique presently known to destroy a city, except for bombing. So that doesn't sound like he's got a lot of confidence in this policy. So another big part of the coalition's platform is massive spending. This is why I say that this coalition, that was what I was seeing in the chart, that the new government would go wild on spending and would precipitate a major meltdown in Spain that is further going to drag Europe into crisis. That was what I was kind of seeing in the chart, and this reflects exactly what I was thinking. So it plans to increase spending by 1% of the economy on healthcare alone. And another 1% increase is going to go towards education and slashing student fees. And it's also going on about free childcare for children up to the age of 6 and 16 weeks of paid parental leave for both fathers and mothers. So what effect is that going to have on small businesses and the productivity of the economy? It's quite extreme, isn't it? There's also talk of this universal basic income. Now, I wanted a long time ago to do a chat on what I thought the economics would be of universal basic income. It's basically related to Agenda 21, being tried in Finland, being tried in Switzerland. I believe AOC in America, they're talking about it as well. But I think that basically this universal basic income could absolutely do terrible damage to our economy's productivity. But they're thinking of trying it anyway. So all of this is going to lead to massive borrowing, as you can tell. And it was over borrowing that led to Spain's 2008 and 2014 financial crises and their bailout eventually. So although Spain's financial crisis is technically over, they still have very, very big debt problems. And now this government is obviously promising further borrowing. I mean, obviously along the line with hard left policies. So it's certainly, we have the specter of another financial crisis looming for sure. Why also I want to talk about this in relation to Spain, because I've been saying the planetary alignments now are very similar to those in 1936, 1937. And what this article also highlights is that in 1930s Europe experienced the same rise of political extremism we now see reflected in the Spanish elections. So, a lot of people in Spain, like they were in Europe in the 30s, unsatisfied with governments. They want radical change. You've got a certain amount of people going to the far left. You've got another group of people going to the far right, which is Vox. And so there's a rise in extremes on both sides. We also see this in America. Look at the support Bernie Sanders is getting. He's one of the more to the left candidates in America. Obviously, Donald Trump is more to the right. So there we see that extremism. We know in our own country, Boris has moved a lot more to the right. Obviously, Corbyn and, like I say, it's going to be Rebecca Long-Bailey. They're moving a lot further to the left. They're just like the 30s politics becoming a lot more extreme. So along with this financial crisis and the dissatisfaction with mainstream democracy, people in Spain reflecting this trend to the far left and to the far right. And now they've got a hard left government with an outright communist in its cabinet. So Spain's Vox party, well, they've only, as you know, been in existence for 6 years, but they did make a stunning surge. They've become the country's third most powerful party. And so people are certainly in the mood for change. They are moving away from centrist politics. They want something different. They don't want this kind of gray middle ground. They either want to go one way or the other, but that means it's becoming much more divisive. I mean, they keep saying in this country, like after Brexit, will we all come together? Will the wounds heal? And I say, I can't see that the wounds will heal, because the trend everywhere is for people to become, are just going out to the extremes. And therefore, there's very little that either side have where they can see eye to eye with each other. The animosity is growing. People are becoming more engaged in politics, and also, like we say, more extreme on both sides. So what is happening here? People are hungry for a strong leader. As you know, I've talked many times about how I believe a strong leader, similar to a kind of what that guy's name has gone out of my mind. I mentioned it the other day in my vlog, but a strong leader will arise in Germany. Who will it be? And I have a vlog where I'm going to talk about that. So thanks, guys. Just wanted to update you on Spain. I think Spain's very interesting because I think it's going to be key to the financial crisis that we're going to get as a result of Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn. I think it also reflects the general but the general surge off to the far left and far right away from the center ground that we see mirrored in many other countries and in Europe as a whole.